What do you think started the pathway towards increasing censorship? Because clearly we were going in that direction for the last few years. It seemed like...
for the last few years. Remember when America was all great until all of a sudden Biden came along? The most senile, but also the most corrupt, but also the most benign, but also the most malicious, but also the most ineffectual, but also the most controlling, but also the most senile and boring, but also the most like inflammatory president of all time. That guy. Oh yeah.
We really found out about it when Elon bought Twitter, and we got the Twitter files, and when you came on here, and when you were explaining the relationship with FBI, where they were trying to get you to take down certain things that were true and real, and certain things they tried to get you to limit the exposure to them. So it's these kind of conversations. Like, when did all that start?
Yeah, well, look, I think going back to the beginning, or like I was saying, I think you start one of these if you care about giving people a voice. You know, I wasn't too deep on our content policies for like the first 10 years of the...
Tiny and Muck have this, and Zuck, sorry, have the same fit? No. Okay. I would never wear a t-shirt with a front pocket. That.
Company. It was just kind of well known across the company that we were trying to give people the ability to share as much as possible. And issues would come up, practical issues, right? So if someone's getting bullied, for example, we deal with that, right? We put in place systems to fight bullying.
Right.
You know, if someone is saying, hey, you know, someone's pirating copyrighted content on the service, it's like, okay, we'll build controls to make it so we'll find IP protected content. But it was really in the last 10 years that people started pushing for like ideological based censorship. And I think it was two main events that really triggered this.
Jan 6 and COVID, or BLM and COVID?
In 2016, there was the election of President Trump, also coincided with basically Brexit in the EU and sort of the fragmentation of the EU. And then, you know, in 2020, there was COVID. And I think that those were basically these two events where for the first time, we just faced this massive institutional pressure to basically start censoring content on ideological grounds.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when it first came up in 2016, did it come under the guise of the Russian collusion hoax?
And this is the thing.
Hoax. Good one, you balding ape.
Time I was really sort of ill prepared to kind of parse what was going on, right? It's you know, I think part of my reflection looking back on this is I kind of think in 2016 in the
You shouldn't call him balding. I'm sorry.
Aftermath, I gave too much deference to.
Okay, I don't care. There's going to be a 3-hour. How wasn't it a hoax? Because Trump's campaign, and possibly Trump himself, we'll never know, colluded directly with people in Russia who were hacking Democrat computer systems. That's why you know anything about the Podesta emails. It's where like Pizzagate and all that shit came from. That came from a Russian hacker who went by Guccifer, and he was coordinating directly with Roger Stone, who was part of Trump's election campaign. But we'll never know anything more about that. Because Roger Stone refused to cooperate with any part of that investigation. He harassed another witness and told him not to cooperate with the investigation. He was convicted on all counts, and then Trump pardoned him. So we'll never know anything more about that.
A lot of folks in the media who are basically saying, okay, there's no way that this guy could have gotten elected except for misinformation. People can't actually believe this stuff, right? It has to be that there's this kind of like massive misinformation out there. Some of it started with the Russia collusion stuff, but it kind of morphed into different things over time.
Well, he was so ideologically polarizing, right? Like people didn't want to believe that anybody looked at him and said, this should be our president.
Yeah, so I took this and just kind of assumed that everyone was acting in good faith. And I said, okay, well, there are concerns about misinformation. We should, just like when people raised other concerns in the past and we try to deal with them.
We'll never know about Hunter Biden back in 2014 because Biden pardoned him for all of it. That's where you'd be wrong because there was independent counsel investigation and there were conservatives investigating him for like 10 years on it. So no, you know basically everything there is to know about all of that. Nice try though.
Beyond tried to basically make it so that it was really limited. We're like, all right, we're just going to have the system where there's these third-party fact checkers and they can check the worst of the worst stuff, right? So,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. When he brings up 2016, again, nobody remembers this because we've just memory holed it, I guess. They're not going to bring this up a single time, are they? I wonder if Zuckerberg had to let Rogan f*** him in the ass, or I wonder if Rogan had to let Zuckerberg f*** him in the ass to come on the show. I wonder who was giving what favors to who when they came on here to agree to not mention like the largest fucking scandal having to do with social media up to this point with Cambridge Analytica. People were being hauled in front of Congress and shit to answer for this whole scandal. But I won't make assumptions. Maybe they do bring it up. Nope. Okay. Yeah, I think Zuckerberg himself, this is why we saw him in front of Congress. Destiny, is Trump threatening this guy not kind of fascistic? No, it is totally fascistic, but it doesn't matter. Conservatives don't care. But it is absolutely an authoritarian action to tell your heads of media, right, that you're going to throw them in prison if they don't report favorably on you.
We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. And it was my mistake, and I'm sorry. I started Facebook, I run it, and I'm responsible for what happens here. Cambridge Analytica wasn't using our services in 2015 as far as we can tell. So this is clearly one of the questions that I asked our team as soon as I learned about it.
How can you not bring up the huge inciting event that was like literally the reason why Congress started to pay so much more attention to our social media? How can you go a 3-hour convo in a podcast and not bring this up? It's impossible. How could you do this?
This is why did we wait last month to ban them? It's because as of the time that we learned about their activity in 2015, they weren't an advertiser, they weren't running pages, so we actually had nothing to ban. There's a very common misperception about Facebook that we sell data to advertisers. And we do not sell data to advertisers.
Well,
we don't sell data
to anyone. You clearly rent it.
What we allow is for advertisers to tell us who they want to reach, and then we do the placement. This is an ongoing arms race. As long as there are people sitting in Russia whose job it is to try to interfere with elections around the world, this is going to be an ongoing conflict. What I can commit is that we're going to invest significantly because this is a top priority to make sure that people aren't spreading misinformation or trying to interfere in elections on Facebook.
Mr. Zuckerberg.
So was he just lying when he said all that then? Or is he lying now? Or
would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
I think that may be what this is all about. Your right to privacy, the limits of your right to privacy, and how much you give away in modern America in the name of, quote, connecting people around the world.
They're really going to go this whole podcast and not mention the Cambridge Analytica stuff.
Oh.
What do you think protects people like Bill Gates and shit from being corrupted by this behavior? Like, I would have imagined Zuck to at least be invested in some form of truth before this shift. I never considered him to be this cowardly. So I have like 3 guesses here, but I haven't thought about any of these that deeply. So the first is that by the time all of this stuff like became super in the news and in the media all the time, I think Bill Gates has already kind of like stepped away from Microsoft. Bill Gates steps down, Microsoft CEO. What year was this? Okay, so don't trust this AI bullshit. Hold on. He left the board in 2020, stepped down as CEO in 2000, left his full-time role in 2008. So I think, so one is that it's just been a while, number one. Number 2 is I think Bill Gates like genuinely believes in his philanthropic work. Like it seems like he's really into that and that's what gives him fulfillment or enjoyment in life or whatever. So it seems like he legitimately does like spend a lot of time and effort and energy into that. And then 3 is, I don't think, this feels weird to say, and I don't even know if millennials remember this. Tech people were kind of like fucking losers and nerdy people for a long time. And I don't think they had the same sexy allure that they do now. So there was less of this media spotlight on them to where now like social media and tech nerds and tech nerd TV shows, like first it was kind of like The Big Bang Theory was probably like the big first one. And then you got like this slew of shows where like tech people are like cool and trendy and you're Silicon Valleys and all this shit or whatever. So there's probably more of like a cultural fascination and fixation on these like big social media figures. My guess is going to be like these 3 things kind of like play together that made it so that people like Bill Gates were just never captured in the same way by this. That'd be my guess. Like that's my guess, I think. Like, what is the video Bill Gates jumping over his chair? Jesus.
Is it true that you can leap over a chair from a standing position?
It depends on the size of the chair. I'll cheat a little bit.
Yes!
It's crazy because like somehow like the whole conservative world became lol cows. Like I think even nerds cringed at this back in the day. We were like, oh God, why are they putting us on stage again? Oh no, here we are. Remember to keep your hands out of your pockets, guys, because that's about the only social cue that we have. But then now, like, think about this, right? Like nerds are like, ooh, we're like cringing at ourselves on this shit, okay? But then today, now it's like, oh no, actually, this is like cool. Now,
Grandpa, you are such an inspiration, and I love you.
Donald Trump now inspiring his That dance to YMCA.